Oh my gosh. Uh, I am so sorry. I was muted. Whoops. Well, what I was talking about is the dry brushing technique. Now, this is the first class for the dry brushing technique. Um, and we're going to dry brush a bunch of models. And you can either paint along with me with the class. If you check out !Discord and you go to the channel gmp101 Dry Brushing, you'll see some of the models that we'll be working on today. And I also suggest not using something you care about painting if you're practicing the dry brush technique. Find something that you want to practice on and save the models you do care about. Maybe, in 3 weeks when we get into after we get into base coloring and all that stuff. So, dry brushing. As I said when I was muted, dry brushing is a highlighting technique, and you may ask yourself, Gel Tip, why are we learning about highlighting when I don't know how to paint a model? Well, dry brushing is the basic highlighting technique, and I'm going to teach you how to base color your model, very basic. I'm going to teach you how to mix some colors so we can get a small gradient coming up with our dry brush, and it's just a quick, fun little way, and we all have to start somewhere, so dry brushing seems to be the best way to start. Alright, now, just to reiterate what we're using for colors, I chose 2 dark colors and 2 light colors. And when we dry brush, we are using extreme darks and extreme lights so that we can see what we're doing. Any midtones is sort of like a subtle dry brush. Anything that's extreme will be a stark contrast when we dry brush. So I'm using the Procryl Mahogany Brown. This is a dark brown. And I'm also using Abaddon Black, which is a Citadel color. And I'm going to just go through and I'm going to show you different acrylics that we can use. Now you don't have to use, you can just stay with one paint that you like the most, but I'm just showing that with dry brushing it doesn't matter really what acrylic you use. We're using the Citadel Screaming Skull. That's our bone color. And then we're going to use this Decor Art Metallic, nice bright silver. That's going to be our metallic. So, I know, my sound was off. Yep, and there we go. So I'm just going to put some of these paints in here. But I wanted to come by and say hi. Oh, yes, lurk away. Get some blanks in there, Again, for anybody that's coming in or just viewing, this is all extremely beginning level stuff. So if you're an accomplished painter already, chances are you probably already know this stuff. So we're going to get some silver right in there. Now the brushes I'll be using are this big guy. This is what I'm going to use to mix my colors with, to base my colors with, base my model with. And so I'm just going to get some bone right in there. And I know I got some on the ferrule, but we don't want to do that. But this is just kind of like a garbage kind of brush, but we're going to use it to base. We're not going to do any real detail with that. I'm going to do the same thing with the black. So I'm going to try to keep up with chat. Did you already explain your brushes? I have not explained the brushes yet. I will do that soon. I haven't explained everything. I'm going to do that as I go. I just wanted to get some paint out. So I'm just going to close those up. So there's my black that I have in there. And then, since this has a twisty top, I don't need a brush for that. Just get some of that out and throw some brown in there. All right. So, for this, no, you're good. You're good, Talon. Keep me on my toes. I like it. So, this here is what we're going to use to base our base color our models with. It's a big brush. We're only going to base with one color, maybe two. Maybe we'll base with the dark brown and the black on some models. But when we dry brush, you kind of want a dry brush that has no tip. And so there's two types of dry brushes. You only need one, and that is you have this round guy that has no tip, or you can use this flat guy that has no tip. Either one. I tend to like the flat guy for big flat surfaces and the round guy for any textured thing. Now I'm going to warn you that dry brushing does leave a texture on your model. So it's a quick highlight, it's a chaotic highlight, but you can get some interesting effects with. And so dry brushing does have a place in the miniature painting process, but it's up to you if you elect to use it. All right, so we got our paint. I think I explained the brushes. You can always use at symbol gel tip and ask me a question, and I think I should be able to get the sound from that. If not, I may have to open up the chat box. But we're gonna. So you may not have all of these models. If you have something that kind of resembles it, then please feel free to work on it. But we're gonna use a wolf here. Yeah, that didn't work. So I may have to open up the chat box here. Let me open up my Streamlabs chat box and see if I can, because it worked on Tuesday and it worked on Friday. I think I was on Friday. So it's got to be the chat box. It's the only thing I didn't add in here. So let's so we're opening that up. And then let me just it's opening, it's opening, it's opening. We don't want that. Gonna connect in. Yes. And let's hope that that's gonna work. And let's see. It's connected, but it still says it's offline, so I'm not sure what it's doing. I don't want this. Technical difficulties. Well, I'll be able to see it. I just have to close this. Let's close it. Minimize that, minimize that. All right, whoops. All right, so I think we have the sound command. There we go. Hey, Stompy, what's going on? Okay, so like I was saying, you don't have to have all the models. You can have one of the models, or you can use this as a VOD and paint along with us. These classes are meant to be painted along, so I will keep updating in the Discord all of the materials that I will be using on the stream, and that's just !Discord to get at the Discord command. So here is a wolf that we're going to be doing today. Here is my naked skeleton that I'm going to be doing today. We're also going to take a look at this bad boy, this dire badger, because he's got some armor, and I think I can get some cool texture out of his fur. Here's my little armored guy. He's got just a little chaos warrior from, I think it was a game called Hero Quest. So we'll work on him too. And then we got a couple other stuff that we're going to do. I've got this gravestone that I'll show you how to get some stone effects going. So that's what we're going to work on, and so it's all about the dry brushing technique. So I'm not sure which model you have. Now, Jelen, do you prefer to wick off your paint on a paper towel or cork square? I always use a paper towel. There it is, right there. There's my paper towel. So we're going to now. I believe the process for a dry brush is you're going to dip the dry brush into paint and you're going to wipe off the outside. So the first thing that hits the model is the bristles, and then once the high spots of the model get into the bristles, that's what's going to take the paint. So if the low parts don't hit the bristles, it's not going to get any of the paint. But before we do that, I have to show you how to base color. And this is going to be more in depth next week. But for this wolf, we're going to base color brown. So all I'm going to do is take my little base brush here, this large guy. See, there's not much of a tip on here, so I don't much care what it does because I'm just using it to base. And I'm just going to paint this entire thing brown. That's all I'm going to do. So let's just get this nice and brown here. And I just slather it on there. And then as I'm slathering, I just kind of pull it, and I'm not dipping into the paint all the way through. This is base coloring. Now, obviously, if I'm doing more colors, if I want to be more controlled, I will be more liberal with where I'm, or more conservative where I'm painting. But since we're only dry brushing, it's sort of, we just want to cover the whole thing with this nice dark brown. And that's what we're doing here. And then there's a lot of techniques to highlighting, and there's a lot of techniques to dry brushing. Some people will dry brush and then they'll wash it, which we'll get into in some later weeks. But they'll wash it to tone everything down for brightness. So today we just want to learn how to dry brush. But in order to dry brush, we have to learn how to base color our models. So base coloring is just using paint and applying it to the miniature, just like this. Now, I did a stream that talked about the different colors of primers. You got your black primer, you got your white primer, you got your gray primer. And the theory is that white primer will brighten up your base colors. The black primer will dull or darken your base colors. And the gray primer is the truer, it shows the true color that you paint. So I chose to prime this guy white so you can see the brown that's being applied to it. And again, all I'm doing is painting the entire model. I'm not trying to figure out what colors go where. That's not what today's lesson is about. But we want to make sure we have an acrylic base to this. And I'm going to show you, I have something that's primed black, and we're still going to paint it black because I want that acrylic paint on there. There we go. So there we go. All we did was apply some brown paint. All right, what do we got here? Where do you have you been hiding, Stomp? Stomp was taking some final exams. I think he had a project due tomorrow. He had to make a video for tomorrow. It's hit and miss. All right. So just as we did the wolf. Oh, you made it, yes? Oh, you had it yesterday night? You made it yesterday night? Nice. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the skeleton. So I'm just going to paint this whole skeleton brown. So if you have a skeleton, you can paint it all brown too. If you had a wolf, you can paint it all brown too. And all we're doing is just getting this acrylic paint on here. And I'm working on these because I'm just letting the other stuff dry, because by the time I finish 3 of these models, the first one will be dry, and then we can get into the dry brushing technique. And so on this one, for the base color, I think I'm going to do the sword actually black. So I'm going to wait on doing the sword. So if you have armor on your skeleton, you may just want to wait and base color that black. But for the bony parts here, I'm going to do it brown. And I think this is from a game too. I can't remember what these games are. So the trick to teaching and having a class on Twitch or virtual classes is I don't have the models to supply you. So if I was doing this in person, I would have copies of all of these models and I'd be giving it to everybody. And everybody would be painting the same thing at the same time. But the trick is I'm not going to make people go out and buy stuff that probably doesn't exist anymore. And I don't only because I don't want them using their good models to practice technique work on. So we're only doing this because there are new people that want to learn how to paint, and we all have to paint somewhere or start somewhere, and dry brushing is probably the best place to start. Hey, Emersina, how are you today? We are dry brushing all day long. All right. So, like I said, we primed this guy black, but I want a black acrylic coat to him. So I'm just going to go and just paint everything black. So I just have this little black acrylic paint, and we're just going to do everything black. And then if we wanted to, you could base coat the boots and the gloves brown. But that's going to be a different, that's one of the surprises at the end of the stream. I'm going to show you all the kind of cool things you can do with the dry brush. If you're just beginning to paint and you want to do something quick, dry brushing can be your friend. So all I'm doing is just base coloring the model. And since I'm only base coloring with one color, it's pretty easy. I'm just applying it all over the place. If I wanted to base color with multiple ones, I would actually be more controlled where I was placing this color. So maybe I would just be doing the armor black with it, which we'll see in just a second. So this is just an intro to base coloring. Next week we'll talk about how to base color models. But like I said, these are beginning basic techniques that we all started with at some point. Well, not all of us, because if you're here watching this, then you're just getting into painting. Or you just like me so much that doesn't matter what I paint, you want to see it. But these classes are more for the beginners and the newbies, and showing you that painting miniatures doesn't have to be as scary as people think it is. And if you're looking at somebody that's super good, that has been doing it for Lord knows how many years, or somebody just has the natural, they're doing box art for all of the miniatures, well, it can be very, very daunting. Doing all right. How are you? Dry brushing is my kryptonite a little bit. Dry brushing a gray to white Zenthal highlight over black is still a good skill to have. in place of an airbrush. Yes, and that is one of the surprises at the end of the stream. We'll show everybody how to zenithal highlight. And I'm going to take it one step farther. But yes, that is one of my surprises as well. So, and we're just using 4 colors. We're using the silver, the bone, the black, and the brown. Okay, so I think we've got a good acrylic base color on him. And that's what we want to do. Now remember, the art of dry brushing is about the extreme darkness versus the extreme lightness. So we want a nice dark base color if we're going to dry brush. All right. So we're going to do that, and it looks like my wolf is still not dry. So I'm going to take a quick second to actually show you a little bit about base coloring, sort of like a preview to next week. But we didn't do this sword on the skeleton, so I wanted to do it black. So this is where I'm going to be a little bit more controlled. I still have a big brush because I'm not doing very tiny surfaces, and I'm just going to paint this black. So if you have any armor or swords on your skeleton, you can paint them black. So usually any armor or metal, you're going to base coat black. Or I shouldn't say base coat. Well, I guess you could say base coat. Base coat and base color are pretty much interchangeable. And then priming and undercoat are interchangeable as well. So we'll get this like this. And you want to make sure that you don't get any on the skeleton. So there we go. All right. So armor, any metal pieces, we're going to do black. Bone pieces, we do brown. Fur pieces, we're going to do brown today. So if you're painting along and you have something furry, go ahead and paint it brown. If you have something bony, go ahead and paint it brown. If you have something that's metallic, go ahead and paint it black. And we're going to do the dire badger. Look at that guy. And this time I am going to do 2 base colors, still using my base brush. So now you're getting an idea of how to base color the model. So here I have to be a little bit more controlled because I have to find out where my metal pieces are. So I don't want to do brown on the metal pieces, only brown on the miniature. So I know we haven't gotten into the dry brush yet, but we will. We will. I'm not too worried. I've got 2 hours, and when you see what the dry brushing can do, you're going to be like, whoa, that was fast. So my gel tip, you gotta tell me your syllabus so I don't get out of the bag. Dire badger, yes, Emercina, I have a dire badger, and now you have one too. And what's nice about the dry brushing technique is that I don't have to wear my little goggles with it. And don't worry about letting things out of the bag, Talon. It's what keeps people on their toes, because I'm sure people don't know what zenithal highlighting is yet. And I've talked to everybody like they're a beginner. So people may know what zenithal highlighting is, but do you know that you can achieve it with just dry brushing instead of using an airbrush? We're not doing airbrush. That's not a class that I can actually be good at showing because I have to learn the airbrush myself. But I can teach the beginning stages. All right, so I'm going to have to lift him up just a little bit. just to get underneath here. Just to get all this fur. And I'm trying not to get any on this metal piece here. And the trick to this is that I've got to let this brown dry before I can actually go ahead and put the black undercoat on. But I think we got some little fingers here. So we'll paint those up. And obviously if I had very small pieces that I was base coloring, I would use a smaller brush. But right now all of this is pretty good to use a large brush on. And so hopefully, so my intention with all of these classes is to slowly build up your arsenal of paintbrushes, arsenal of paints, so that when you leave me, you will have enough material to paint whatever you want. That's why I said don't waste your time on models you like right now. Let's get some practice of techniques. Okay, so there is the brown on him, and we still have the black we want to do. Remember, we don't want to dry brush unless we have an acrylic base. So I'm going to put that guy over there to tell me I still have to do it. Dire Badger sounds like the sweetest band name. It does, doesn't it? I'm going to do this little gravestone. So I'm going to do the middle brown, and I'm going to do all the stone black. So if you have anything that's stone, go ahead and paint it black. If you have dirt, go ahead and paint it brown. I don't know what models anybody has, so that's why I'm trying to get as many different types of things here to show you what the dry brushing can do for you. And if you notice, there's a lot of texture in these. You got the furry beasts, such as the wolf and the dire badger, and this dirt. And that's kind of where you want your dry brush to be. You kind of want your dry brush to have this texture so that you have that darkness in the middle, or in the bottom rather, and you have all the high points getting the lighter color, which will be your highlight. So again, dry brushing is a highlighting technique, but we need to highlight something, so that's why we have this base color. So we'll get this nice dirt pile right there with that nice dark brown we've got. And I'll go ahead and I'll put some black, but I gotta get some more black in here. And so if you were with me on Tuesday, you would have seen that I revived my black from being one big chunky sludge using the mini paint mixer. So my goal for today, so if you want my syllabus, Talon, my goal today is to show them how to base color, which I'm doing. I'm going to show them how to mix a couple paints, describe what parts are, so that when you say, oh, 2 parts to 1 part, or 1-to-1 ratio, they'll know what I'm talking about. So we're going to get into a little mixing and a little bit of dry brushing. So we're going to get this black. Now the reason I'm doing it black, and you're going to be gel tip, rock is stone is gray. Why are we doing this black? It's because I'm limiting my colors to 4 so that you can paint along and you don't have to go out and buy every color in the known universe. And I will show you that the black still works just like a gray would. So I'm just trying to make this affordable, trying to make this easy so you don't have a lot of supplies you need. So right now we got what, 2 brushes, and 4 paints, and you just need a model that you want to dry brush. So all I'm doing is just base coloring. This is our what we're going to be doing next week too, but we're going to use a lot more colors next week. All right, and then we'll just get into here. Get this little tombstone, nice and black. Again, I used a white undercoat. I used a white primer. So I want to get a nice acrylic base color on here, base coat. I'm gonna just interchange them so that you know. So when you're watching people paint and they happen to say, "Oh, do the base coat here," or "Let's base coat this color," you know what they're talking about. There we go. So we have our little grave going. And we're going to check on my wolf. See if he's dry yet. Oh, he's almost dry. He's almost there. First minis I ever painted were those little metal Disney statuettes. You get the little toy section. Walmart. That's pretty funny. Were they so were the Disney things like Smurfs? I know they used to have those little Smurf guys. This is a little dwarf that I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna paint the handle brown, and I'm gonna give everything else. Well, actually, let's see. Do I want to give him brown? Definitely brown handle. So if you notice, to give him a brown handle, I'm very controlled with what I'm painting. I'm not just slapping paint all over the place. But you want to get a nice coat on there so it's brown. So there's that. And let's see. Let's give him some brown boots. That's always nice to give him. Give him some brown boots. The rest of them is metal, so you know what color we're going to do those? You know what color we're going to base the metal with on this guy? If you said black, you would be absolutely correct. If you said silver, you'd be correct, but we're not at that stage yet. You could do silver. But trust me, when you dry brush, and so when you dry brush, you want a lot of texture on the model. And if you don't have a lot of texture, we're going to do something called overbrush. I think that's good for now. Actually, I'm going to give him a brown beard. So I chose this model for a reason, and we'll show you what that reason is momentarily. It looks like he's got some stuff in the back here. All right, so we'll keep him like that for right now. So we have his beard handle. All right, and just to make sure the wolf is completely dry, I'm going to go back over this guy and get the base armor nice and black. But it's already black. You primed it black. I still want that acrylic base coat on there. Still want that. Because what happens is the primer is too porous, and if you do anything with the primer, it's just that primer is going to soak up everything. So if you have this acrylic base color on there, it makes life a lot easier in the long run. Now, there's alternative highlighting methods. It's not just the dry brush, but if you understand the dry brush, you'll understand how to do the other highlighting methods. Trust me. We're just going to do basic stuff. Just to get you into the miniature, get you comfortable, and then we'll sock it to you. We'll say, okay, now that you passed this, we'll show you this. I'm also hoping that in the 4 weeks that you're here learning about all this stuff, you're going to learn the terminology that is used by mini painters when you go watch somebody stream and you're like, oh, I know what he's talking about. I know that. I've seen that. That's my goal. My goal that you're painting along with me. I hope you're painting along with me. You may be saving it for when the video's up. And talk to Wicked about getting you section on Discord. All right. That sounds awesome. By the way, for anybody that's lurking around or people that are in here, I have turned accepting raids off because I don't want to be rude to people when they come in, but I'm trying to kind of show you. I'm not trying to make this a tutorial video. So the difference between this and a tutorial video is that a tutorial video, I would take a model and I would show you step by step on how to paint it and how to do certain things, where this is more of a class that just teaches you techniques, and you can apply all these techniques to any model you wanted. So I also want to make it a paint along. So usually tutorials are not paint alongs. It's like, here, let me show you how to do all this, and then you can watch the video and try to mimic it. And this is more of a paint along, saying, okay, I see what you're doing. Let me try that. So just make sure that you have your nice dark base colors right there. What we got here? Let's see. We have a link in here, so let me just see if I can pull this up really quick. Let's see. No, it's like Gizmo Duck and Mickey and Minnie and Goofy. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. Here, I'll like that really quick. Let me just show that off really fast. Oops. There you go. That's what Talon was showing us. That's the first minis he was painting. They look like these little Disney guys. This is Gizmo Duck. That's pretty hot. I see what you're doing there. Look how nice that is. Nice job, Talon. Now, he's using something called hardlining, I think, or edge highlighting. And we'll get to that point, folks. We will get to that point. All right, let's take this up. All right, so look at this. I got this guy. He's looking... It's pretty dark. Why are we so dark here? Can I turn this up? Oh, there we go. Let me get rid of this. There we go. See, so there's the dire badger. He's brown, and he's black. All right. So that's that color. Now, let's go back to our wolf. Now, hold on. Do I want the wolf? Let's see. Or do I want the skeleton? Let's go with the skeleton, because I think the skeleton will be a better... Yep. Keep the Burrito Express going. All right, we're going to start with the skeleton. And I'm going to show you how to dry brush. Really, really cool. Like, um, so when I dry brush, you're going to actually put a lighter color on the model from this dark brown. Now, there's two ways of doing this. I can start right with the bright color, or I can start with a medium color. So let's start with a medium color so you can see how it's going to work. So when I do parts, when I say parts, what you're really doing is you're taking some paint. So I'm just going to take my brush and put it in, and I'm going to put a dab here and a dab here. Okay? That's two parts right here and right here. Then I rinse off the brush because we don't want to contaminate anything else. And I'm going to take a bone. And so if I do this, that's a 2-to-1 ratio. That's 2 browns to 1 bone ratio. And now if I do this, it's a 2 brown to 2 bone ratio, which is 1-to-1. It's equal. And so, and I can do this, you know, I can put 3 here or whatever. So what I want to do is just do a 1-to-1, rinse off the brush, and just mix that around. You get this nice little cool light brown color. That's because of that extreme bone highlight. Okay? And I'm always, so this is my mixing brush too. See? That large brush is my mixing brush. You don't really want to use a good brush to mix with. But because this is a nice big base color brush and doesn't have a tip to begin with. Alright. So I'm going to take this round brush and I'm just going to dip it in here just so I can get the tip of it moist. And you're going to take this paper towel and very lightly you're just going to paint on it. And eventually the paint trails away until you can't see any more paint with it. See, no more paint on the paper towel. But when I go over here and I start flicking, and you either want to flick up and down or you want to flick left and right, but you never want to kind of just go haphazardly all over the place. So I'm going to go up and down. And if you notice, you lightly touch and you flick. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a highlight that's coming on where you can start to see some detail of the model. So I'll turn the model this way. Now, at some point, you're not going to have any more on here. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing until I don't see any more highlight. And I'll go back and I'll grab some paint. But now, you see, you can see some paint on there, right? So now I'm just going to wipe it on until I don't see anything on this paper towel. See, I'm painting. Nothing's coming on this paper towel, but when I lightly flick up and down, details start showing up. You guys see it? Is it focusing in? I can't tell if it's focusing in. And this is what the dry brushing technique is. So you're just kind of doing this and this. We'll get some more in the front here so that you can see. Hopefully you can see the face coming through. And I'm just going all over this model with this light brown. I may not have enough brown on here. I mean paint on here. But that's okay. And so I start with a medium tone, just getting this in here, but watch what happens when I get to that bone color. It's going to start really popping. Let's get some on the top here. So see, this is a nice technique that anybody can do. It takes some practice. You may end up getting too much paint on there. It just means you need to wipe more off. Okay, but very subtle. But there's how that is looking. Time for me to go. Hope I can catch stream before it ends. Hope you all have a great time. You too, stop. Have a great night, and we'll still be here. Well, at least for the next hour and a half. Hour. Let's see. Nice. All right. Okay, so here's the thing with a dry brush. Tip number 1, you never rinse off your dry brush. Don't rinse off your dry brush. There's a reason it's called a dry brush. We keep everything nice and dry. The bristles stay dry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this and I'm going to dip it into the bone. So see, we got some on there. You don't need all that. So there you go. It's on the bone. Now, again, I'm just going to wipe it so that it's never being shown on the paper towel. Okay, so it looks like I almost wiped it all off. You can test the amount of paint on your thumbnail. That's right, I can. See? Nothing there. But just because you don't see it on the paper towel and you don't see it on your thumbnail doesn't mean that it's not there. Because if I just lightly flick anywhere where it touches, it's going to hit. See? There it is. So we dip, get rid of it. There we go. And it's just light little flicks that go onto the model. And it just hits the highlight of the model. Now this might be a little dark. We could have probably used a different brown on the bottom. Here I'm just doing side to side now, just to get some of the, whoops, stay there. Just stay there. But now you can start to see some of this dry brush. And I mean, this is just a old mini, so I didn't do anything with the, there you go, there's the skeleton. You can start to see all of the definitions in here. And once I go over the overbrush, you'll see you can overbrush the model to get a little bit more lighter effect. But I'm just dry brushing over the same areas, and it's just applying more paint to those. There we go. Welcome to dry brush. There it is. Okay, so we're going to put him off to the side. And let's get, this guy's still wet. Whoops. Let's go to the wolf here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brown. So I go 1, 2. Let's see, 1, 2, and then I'm going to do 1 ivory. There it is. So that's a 2-to-1 mixture right there. And we're going to mix it all up. So we're going to get a little bit darker brown than we got before. Let's get rid of all that. And I'll just show you that we can use, well, we'll use the same brush. All right. So we'll get some of this color on here. We'll load it up. We'll keep painting until it doesn't show up anymore. And again, we just lightly flick our wolf. I could have used better colors. I probably could have used I probably could have primed him black and dry brushed with the brown. So you could actually see the highlights going. But I'm just we'll go side to side on his feet. I don't know if it's showing up on here though. You guys see any highlight going on there? So this does add some texture because you're adding dried paint almost to the model, but you're adding it to the higher pieces of the model so that you can get so it really shows off that texture. Do you guys see any highlights? I might have to go a little bit brighter. I just didn't want to go the bone color. Let's see. Oops. We'll go off to this side here. So just keep wiping it off until you don't see it. And then we just kind of, oh, there you go. We get some right on his nose. There we go. Now you should start seeing some highlights. I'm just trying to make it so that it's not so bone colored, because we don't want the wolf to, we want it to be sort of brown. There we go. Go and getting his little snout there, his little mouth. And this dry brushing technique will help you find out where to put eyes. It'll help you figure out all the details that you can paint on. Show some mixing and throw some Carrack stone in there. So there is some there's some highlighting going on there, and then if I want, I can add a little bit more of this bone color right here. Make it a little bit lighter. Take it off. Whoops. Stay there. Keep. Oh, I'm not even showing it on screen. Hold on. So I'm just wiping it off until you don't see it anymore. And then I'm just going to kind of lightly hit where this mouth is to really sell the highlight. I'm not going to go all over the model. I'm just going to kind of hit where the mouth is, hit where the teeth are. So you see, there we go. Hit where the legs are so you can see it's not the fur. And I can even see where the toenails are here. And keep that in mind that you can use this to see some details. Because as Talon had said before, we're going to show you how to do a little bit of highlighting, beginning highlights, using this technique. So there you go. We dry brushed them. Now obviously what you're starting to see is that the dry brush is a great beginning way, but it doesn't have to be the ending thing. So obviously we want to put teeth on him, so we're going to paint the teeth on. We want to put a black nose on him, some colored eyes. So dry brushing isn't going to do everything for us, but it's going to do a lot. And dry brushing should probably be the first thing you do, and that's why I'm teaching it to you now, is because once you dry brush, then you can go in and get all of your other details done. And it's really especially important when you're doing armor and metal pieces, which we're going to show you in just a second. But there you go. So that is how you kind of dry brush. It's just a slight flick, and you just choose the way you want to go and stick with it, and you'll end up seeing some highlights. And if you want it to be brighter, and again, I'm just using the 4 colors that we had discussed, or that I wanted to show you with, but you can use all kinds of colors, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Hey, Big Jim, what's going on? We're just doing some beginning dry brushing, such as this skeleton we dry brushed, and now we did this wolf. And I used the brown as the base, and I used bone for my highlight, and I got 2 different effects here. All right. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about overbrushing and metal. So if you have a model that's almost all in armor, it's probably better to do all the armor in the dry brushing first before you start getting into the other colors. That's why I did this here. And on my little dwarf, which I just remembered I didn't put a black primer coat on him. I would want to do all of the silver on him first, and then start working around getting all the detail colors in, and that's where next week will come. But for now, let me just show you how you can dry brush armor on just by overbrushing. So for this one, I'm going to use the flat dry brush. And the process is the same. I'm going to dip it into the silver, and I'm going to wipe it away, but instead of going all over, I'm just going to wipe this flat piece and that flat piece. And I didn't wipe it a lot. I just wiped it enough to get rid of the excess. And so when I come over, this is the part where you want to choose which way you want to go. I'll come straight down and I'm going to touch it lightly, and see, that's what that light, that bright color does on this black background. And so you can just kind of overbrush this silver onto this guy. I'll kind of, and now you can see he's got a little bit of chainmail right there. And so I'm just going to kind of, so this is what the extreme highlight does with the extreme dark color. I didn't do any midtones here. And you can actually make something look very worn by doing this sort of overbrushing metal. See, I'll do it on this axe right here. Do the same thing on the back. So my pauldrons go this way, so maybe I want to kind of overbrush this way. And you can always go back and clean it up. If you think it's too much silver, you can always go back to the base color, which is black, and fill in where you think that it doesn't, that the silver is not supposed to be. But this is what overbrushing is. It's still under the dry brushing technique, but I'm not wiping all of the paint away. I want quite a bit. And there you go. Beginning mini painters, you now have painted an armored piece. Now you know how to do metal. I mean, there are other ways to doing metal, which we'll show you later on in these classes. But look how fast that was. And I just keep dipping in, wiping off, but I don't wipe off until it disappears because I want that overbrush. And I don't know why I'm not getting any sound when you guys get that, when you guys send me stuff. And there you go, see? And then you get this thing. And I didn't do any of the gloves because I can actually paint those brown and I can dry brush those. So I just wanted to stick with the metal pieces of the model. You can do whatever you want to do. There's the dry brushing technique. That's what it all is about. It's just lightly flicking around the model, catching all those high points. You just need to make sure if you want a soft highlight, you have to get rid of as much paint as you can. And if you want to overbrush, such as doing metal, you kind of, his hand, this, for whatever reason, this is metal, so I can do this. But he's wearing a leather glove and he's wearing a metal glove. I don't know why, but there you go. And there is a metal piece. So that's all it really is. And then you can go in and you can clean stuff up when you need to. So let's get back to our skeleton here. And let's give him a silver sword. There you go. Oh, where are you going? Stay in the classroom. There we go. I'll get some on top here. There we go. We now have a skeleton with a sword. And again, you could do different colors over here. So if you have any metal pieces, you can go ahead and just overbrush those. So I would suggest you always do your metal stuff, unless it's like this sword, I would always do the metal stuff before you do any other pieces on the model. Okay. Let's get to, you guessed it, the dire badger. Now we haven't dry brushed any brown yet, but we saw that with the wolf. But I don't want to do that just yet, because if I mess up with this silver, I'm going to need to use that brown to paint over it. So don't do the dry brush on the brown yet. Let's get some over stuff on the badger. So this, since all the plates are going this way, that's the way I'm going to go. And this only works because it's an extreme highlight on an extreme dark. And I could have done that with the skeleton. I could have just done the bone color instead of doing that that intermediate color. There's too much there. You can always test it on your thumbnail. You can always test it. If you go light with it, you can always test out how much paint is on there. But we're just, again, these are just basic techniques. There's different ways of doing metal that we will show you, that I will show you. I don't know why I keep saying we. Well, maybe because it's me, myself, and I, so we. We'll show you how to do metal a different way, and then you determine which way you like. I kind of like this way because it kind of looks like cast iron. It looks like iron instead of straight up silver or straight up steel. But, see, I don't know if you guys are on board with the dry brushing technique or if you're learning anything, but this is where I started. I started by dry brushing, and then sometimes you have to clean up certain areas, and then I learned how to do the washes and the glazing and all this stuff. But for beginners, this is where I started. I think I'm okay. I don't think I got any on him himself. He wants to fall off, is what he wants to do. So, and then I might leave that darkness under there just to kind of separate it. I'll have to see what happens when I dry brush his fur. But no, he's an armored dire badger. And I can go in with the black if I want, and I can just kind of add in some black lines in there, separators. I still need to get out to the habit of saying we. Yeah, I know. Well, I feel like if I say we, it's all of us here together. We will take care of showing you all that stuff. In other words, like I said, this is more for a paint along. This isn't really a tutorial, even though I'm teaching you guys how to do stuff. This is more of a paint along for those people that, you know, maybe you always wanted to know how to dry brush but didn't know what to do. Because we can all read books. We can all take in stuff that we read and process, but some people may read it differently and they're like, oh no, that's not how you do that. You don't do that. So we do a little overbrushing when we do the silver, just to get those armor plates in there. And it looks worn. And then again, I can go back in with the black if I want, and I can go ahead and... So the one thing I'm not showing you is if things come out way too bright, how do you tone them down? And you tone them down by doing a wash, which we'll get into in a few weeks. But we'll keep these models. I'm going to keep with these models and show you different things that you can do. And that way you'll be able to use your own models. So this has silver on it, so I'm probably not going to use this brush again, except if I want to use it for the dwarf, but I haven't based him in black yet. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash this off and let it dry. That's what I want to do there. So I washed it off and let it dry. I'm going to get some new paper towels, because I'm going to show you guys how texturing with dry brushing, can't say we without we. Oh my god, you guys. You're all a bunch of jokesters, you are. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit on how to do stone. Even though we primed it black, I'm going to show you how to do some stone. So we're going to take out our mixing brush. And I usually do what's called a 4-part system. And since I don't really have much black left. Now you can do this with white. I'm going to do it with bone. But you can do it with white. And the first, I'm going to do this with, I'm going to do 3 dots of black in here. There we go. 3 dots. And now I'm going to do 2 dots in here. So it's 2. And I'm going to do 1 here. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. All right. Now, what do I mean by a 4-part system? It means I have to have a total of 4 parts. So I'm going to take my bone color. I know, I said bone. Go ahead. And 4 minus 3 is 1, so there's 1 dot. And we'll do it again. 4 minus 2 is 2, and 4 minus 1 is 3. 1, 2, 3. Nope. 3. I know they look a little bit larger. That's because I kind of spread them out. All right. So we rinse out the first one. Mix it all together. Blah. Don't want to contaminate anything else, so I'll rinse that off. And we'll mix this together. This should be a little bit lighter. Rinse it off. It should be a little bit lighter. Or a little bit ivorier. Okay. There it's at. All right, so we have 3 colors there. That's my 3-color stone. I'm going to go with my round dry brush, and I'm going to do the same thing I did before. So I'm going to dip it in here, and then I'm just going to wipe it until it never shows me gray again. Until it never shows me gray again. There we go. All right. And then you just flick it around. And it's going to be hard to see on the camera. I can already tell it's working, but it's very subtle. You might be able to see it here because you'll be able to read it. So all I really want is the texture. So this is adding texture as well as giving me the texture of the actual terrain piece. So I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can get this below here. I'm trying to get everything into the camera shot. And then I don't have any more, so just keep wiping it until it goes away. And then I just kind of flick it around. On this piece, I don't need to really worry about up and down because I kind of want the random texture for the stone. Okay. So there's that. Now, without rinsing out my brush, I'll go to the secondary color, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. That's all dry brushing is. Put some paint on the brush. Put some paint on the brush, he says. Paint the paper towel until it can't be painted anymore. And then, with a flick and a light touch, a lighter gray will appear. And if you want to be a pro painter, here's a tip. You take this light gray that you did, or this medium gray, or secondary gray, and you don't go all the way down. You leave the darkness on the sides, and you just stick with the top. But yeah, I mean, you can go a little bit on the sides, because we have another color to do. But then you're adding more dimension to it. So like I may not want to go all the way to the dirt. Maybe I just want to stay on the top here with this color and leave that dark on the bottom. So can you guys start seeing what's going on here? I hope so. I don't know if my camera's doing any justice. I know it's going pretty quick, so you may not be. And I'm a pretty bad teacher if I'm not answering any questions. But I'm just trying to make sure I can get this in the 2 hours because I do want to show you something towards the end. But what I'm doing is I'm adding texture to the stone so it just doesn't look flat. I know that there's little cuts in the stone. And you can overbrush the stone if you want. But I'm trying to be as nice and controlled and use my little dry brush the way people intended it to be used. Okay. So there we go. I know it's looking a little dark, but that's why we have a third color here. This one's going to be a little bit lighter. Just getting rid of whatever I have to get rid of. And staying on the top of the grave, not going all the way down. Start to see a little bit more of that highlight color. And over here, I'll stay on the top. I may not have used enough paint. Anybody that watches my Friday streams will know that I'm so conservative with paint. And here I'm just going to stay on the top. But notice that I'm getting the texture not only of the miniature or the terrain piece, but I'm also making this like dusty texture, which is what you want for your stone. So I'm just going to do up here. And see, so that blackness that we did starting to turn out to be a little bit better. Now what I can do is I can keep adding ivory to this color I just did. Make it a little bit lighter, a little bit more yellowy. And keep doing the same thing. So here I'll just stick to the top. Stick to the top here. Don't do it so much. Where is this grave from? I think it's from a box set I got long ago. I'll have to look it up. But it had a whole bunch of graves in it. And it was really cool. I really like these graves. I was going to make a nice graveyard terrain piece. There we go. Do some in the back here. And you can do as much as you want. And then if you want, you can just take some actual bone color or white color. It just doesn't have to be done with just bone. It's just the 4 colors I'm using today. But then you can just hit like little pieces. Like you don't want to hit a lot of edges with the bone because you don't want to lose all of that color you put in there. So I just kind of flick it and touch it in certain places. All right, I understand what I'm saying. You don't have to, but there you go. And so remember that black base color we had? Now it's gray. So we have, so there you go. That's what dry brushing is, and as you control it, you can get some pretty good effects with it. And we showed you how to mix colors. So again, this is just the black, yeah, just the black and the little ivory. I could add a little bit of brown if I wanted to. So I could take this ivory here with the stone color, and I could take some of this brown here, mix it together. I shouldn't be mixing with a dry brush. That's a big no-no. But we're at the tail end of here, so I don't need all these paints. But then I can just kind of get rid of this. See? And still want to dry. I don't want to see much. Whoops, I hit the wet spot. If you hit a wet spot, then you have to keep doing it again. You don't want to hit a wet spot. That's why it's a dry brush. And then I can just go on here, and I can just highlight the mound. And then it shows you where you can put grass if you want, or rocks. Like I could paint a rock in. There we go. So before I continue on, does anybody have any questions? Would anybody like me to re-explain something? I'm going to go in with a bone right here. So let's say I want his face to be really bright. I'll just use that bone color. I'll get it nice and bright. Maybe I want the front of him nice and bright. And his knees. So you can do something that looks like that. That way you're getting more texture in there. Maybe his feet need a little bit more highlights. So you can take this bone, just keep going. Maybe his fist here might need a little bit more highlights. Top of his head, maybe. You can overbrush the head. But there you go. That is your dry brushing, and we can do that. And And it should always be your first step, because then I can go in and I can start painting, I can start cleaning up, I can do a lot of stuff after I get done dry brushing. Dry brushing is a little bit of a mess, I will admit. It can be a little chaotic, but I mean, think about it. In the hour and a half that we were already here, we got a skeleton kind of in its a good stage. We've got the armor on this guy all set up, ready to go. We just have to put some details in here. That's 2 models. Then we got some wolf action going. That's 3 models. And then we got the armor done on here, and I could go ahead and I could dry brush the brown on this guy as well. And so it's what, 3.5 models. We did this grave. That looks pretty good. I mean, I can make some touches or whatever, but that's 4.5 models. And I can work on this guy and get this guy to a place that I like, but I haven't primed him black, or I haven't based him black. So there is a couple things I would like to show you, and unless there's any questions, what's the difference between dry brushing and over brushing? Or is it the same concept? It's the same concept, except that I'm not pulling all of the paint off of the dry brush. So, for example, I'll do it on the skeleton. So let's see, where's a good spot to do this? All right, I'll do it on his shoulder here. Actually, you know what? I'll do it on. I can do it here. So I'll do his axe here. Well, no, I can't do that. What am I doing? I gotta find a good one to do it with. All right. I'll do it with the wolf. All right. So let me get rid of this silver. All right. So with the wolf, I'm going to look at his mouth, and I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to dry brush his mouth. So I have paint on the brush. And what I'm doing here is I'm just painting so I don't see any more on the paper towel, which I don't. So when I go here and I flick on his mouth, I get a subtle highlight. So can you see that? So it's just kind of giving me a subtle highlight on his teeth and stuff. If I'm going to overbrush, I'll use the same. Then I'm not worried about if I see anything on the paper towel. I'm just wiping once and twice. And then I'm going to still flick, but now you can actually see the overbrush gives me a little bit more, gives me a little bit more of the paint, right? So here's the overbrush. So you're still trying to hit the high spots. I didn't do a good job there. But there's, that claw is the overbrush. If I wipe this so that there's nothing left, and then I go ahead and I do this paw, right? It's just a little subtle. You still get the same effect, but notice that is much different than that. So the overbrush just puts a little bit more paint on. So it's really a matter of how much you want to see, and the overbrush really works when you have an extreme highlight. Here, I'll do it over here. So I'm just kind of wiping it off, and then if I decide I want to go and make his face brighter, I can have a little bit more of the overbrush on him down the side. And you can start to see there's a lot more paint being added to him. It's still hitting the high points, but it gets a much, much brighter. Did that answer? Yeah, exactly. Overbrush has more paint on it. You're not wiping all of it away, and you're getting more paint. And I usually use overbrushing on more of. The reason why it's so hard to show you is because um, it's just hard to do. Like, so this isn't painted with acrylic. So if I was to take this and I was to dry brush this silver, so I just want to do it so that I don't see anything on the paper towel, then it kind of looks like this. So, and I guess I could use it to paint, but that's where I'm going to get without overbrushing. But if I do overbrush on a flat surface, you would get something. So there you go. That's what the dry brush is. This is what the overbrush is. See, it just adds more paint to the model. Hopefully that explains it. Hopefully I get to show you a little bit of the technique. All right. So, one thing I want to show you. So let's take this off. And it takes practice. I mean, a lot of people will jam their dry brush into it, trying to get all the paint out of the dry brush. You don't have to. Don't do that. All right. So, as promised, I'm going to show you something that you can do. So, for this, I'm going to need some black paint. Oh, no, I don't want to use that. I want to use my base brush. Forgot where I was. Sorry, class. Forgot where I was. All right. Now I'm just going to use regular paint from the pot, and I'm just going to paint all of this black. So on this is something you can do on any models you want to paint for yourself. You can paint or prime the whole thing black. I'm choosing to use an acrylic base coat of black, but you could technically use regular primer. So I'm just going through. This is a ghost. This is one of the original ghosts from Games Workshop's, what is it? Warhammer Fantasy. It looks like he's on a hanger, on a coat hanger. But this is a technique that I'm going to try with everybody tonight. See if I can get it to work. I may not be able to get it to work. But I know many of you probably already have the brown, the black, the bone, and the silver. And maybe you have some other colors. So we're gonna let this guy dry. And while he's drying, we're gonna mix up some colors. Okay. So I don't want it to look like stone, so I have decided that I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use a little bit of white. So, hey, Joan, how are you? We're learning all about dry brushing. All right. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some white in here. Let me rinse that off. And I'm going to take my black, I'm going to put it back in here. what I need, I gotta get one of those paint spoons so I can just scoop this paint out and put it in here. There you go. We're gonna do that. Now, as promised, I'm trying to show you guys how to mix colors. So I'm going to do a 1-to-1 mix of black and white. So here's 1, 2. Get rid of some of that excess so I don't contaminate the white. So 1 and 2. Well, let's get 2. Okay. And then with my mixing brush, we'll sploosh them together. Sploosh. Just like that. That might actually be a little bit too much white. I may have not done my parts together. So let's get a dab of black back in there. Yeah, there we go. That looks like a better neutral gray to me. So a 1-to-1 mixture of white and black. All right. Well, let's see what we got here. I'm doing okay. Won't be able to talk much. I'm drawing, but wanted to say hi and leave you alert. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Jotun. Lurking is always great. Yep, we're just doing some beginning techniques here, which is all about the dry brushing. Since blush and eyeshadow are great for blending. Yes. So speaking about brushes, I have this monster. See? You can dry brush with this. So anything that doesn't have a tip and it's got like these bristles right here, you can use as a dry brush. The technique is to if you want to overbrush or if you want to if you want to dry brush. And usually for overbrushing, I'll start using things that look like this flathead, and for dry brushing, I'll start using things with a round. So having a makeup brush, pretty good, or an eyebrow brush or whatever. I don't know. I don't put eyebrow shadow, or I don't put eyeshadow or whatever on when I'm on stream. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff that you have, and I have these like film cases with just regular wall mounting tape, and that's what I use because I don't want to touch the miniatures as I'm painting them. So it's just kind of cheap. You use all kinds of devices. All right. So we're waiting for this guy to dry. See, he's still shiny, which means he's wet. So anything else that I can answer? Let's see. I'm not looking at chat here. Thanks to Talon. Talon's been answering all my questions, which is great. That's why I always need to have a mod, because I'm very bad. Instead of living under a rock. Yes, that's right. Go follow Jotun. Go follow Emersina. Go follow Stompy. Go follow Talon. I don't know why this add gel tip. Do you weigh down your film cases? Nope. Nope. There it is. Because most of them is plastic. If I get something that looks like this large metal one, this is kind of big enough where the film case kind of holds it. If I was doing something really large, then I will find something else to do the film cases with. But I don't weight them down at all. It's more or less just me twirling the miniature around to get to where I need to. So I'll show this while that thing is drying. But let's say that you made a mistake. I'll show you how to fix it. So I made a mistake over here by doing too much highlight on the mouth. So I can go over here, get my original color back, Get my original color back, which was that dark brown mahogany. Take my base coloring brush, this big, huge honking thing here, and I can actually just go back over this and get rid of all of that messed up highlight. And then I can go back and dry brush if I need to. So there you go. And it looks a little bit lighter because it's kind of over that light color, but when it dries it'll be a better color. And then maybe you just didn't want to highlight that, and you did it by accident. So you could just quickly knock that out. So I'll show you a little bit of stuff. So on this guy here, I did dry brushing on the rock. This is cork. I glued it together, and then I just started dry brushing. And notice that it's on the edges here, it's a lot lighter than it is in the background. That just kind of gives it more dimension. So dry brushing does have its place, and you can do all kinds of cool looking things. You know what? I guess while we're waiting, I'll show you another technique you can do with dry brushing. And that is, let's get this guy's glove brown. So we're just going to kind of base color this brown. And in this case, you want to be careful you don't get any on your metal that you just dry brushed, because that would not, I mean, you could try to fix it, but there's something about the metal dry brush that kind of makes it look cool, and if you paint over it, you may not get the same effect. So you just want to be careful and be controlled. We'll do this next week, being nice and patient and controlled. There we go. And while we're waiting for our little ghosty goo to be dry, I'll do some brown on his boots. I will show you. I'll use another color. So we used white to show you a little trick that you can use on your models if you want to practice your dry brushing. I should say while I'm doing this that if you join my Discord, !Discord, you can put your dry brushed models in the channel called gmp101 dry brushing, and you can show off any models that you dry brushed. I mean, it's a technique, and some models you can just dry brush and call it good. Others you may have to dry brush before you start to do anything. Like this guy here, we did the metal. And now I'm just going to show you I'm going to show you a technique that I learned with the dry brushing. That's kind of a neat little trick. It may or may not work. I think I did it by accident. So there you go. There's some brown on there. So let's see. How are we doing over here? Still wet. All right. Well, I really want to show you this thing, so I gotta wait for that to dry. Yes, thank you, Talon. That's !Discord. There's my Discord. You can join that. I fixed it so it never expires. For a painting handle, I like to use rubber bottle stoppers from Lowe's or Home Depot. They're like 89 cents. Sizing stopper. Yeah, stoppers are good. So one of the things I was doing is I was taking cork from like all the wine stuff, and oh, you put a paper clip in it. I put those I found some alligator clips that you can kind of jam into the cork stuff too. And then you have the alligator clips, and those are great for, like, when you got this dire badger. I'm not going to take him out, but he's got this little thing in the slotted base, this little bar, and the alligator clip hooks on there really nice. I'll have to show that on stream one of these days, but I do that as well. Super cheap too. Yep. Cool. Yes. So thank you for all that advice, Talon. Always keeping our newbies happy. And I'm just trying to show that you can paint, and you can paint with some success, and you shouldn't be scared. Give it all a try. And then next week we'll get into more of the base coloring and color theory and all kinds of neat little things that you can do with the base coloring. All right. Let's see. This brown might be dry enough for me to do. So, show you a little mixing again. This time I'm going to take a little bit of yellow. And again, everything is 1-to-1 that we're doing. So I'll do one. Drop there. Let's try to stay on stream for you guys. And I'll take one brown here. One drop of brown. And I'll just smush it in there. So I've taken yellow now. I didn't take the white. I could have taken white. I could have taken ivory. I chose to take this yellow color because I kind of want to... This is going to look like a little bit of leathery color. And so here's what I learned. I learned that if I take my dry brush with this leathery color, and I really dry brush, so that means get rid of all of the paint till I don't see any leathery color. That looks good. I can actually make this look like worn leather just by kind of dry brushing it on. Did that not work? Did I wipe all of it off? No, I couldn't have. I must have had a wet spot. Hold on. I gotta find a nice dry spot on my paper towel. Okay, let's try this again. You know what? It's too subtle. I don't know why it's too subtle. It shouldn't be too subtle. Let's just get the yellow. That's where the magic happens, is the yellow. I was trying to get this inner step, but it didn't work. It's too subtle. So I'm going to take this yellow, and I'm just going to, whoops, too much. So you can actually make it look like worn metal. My brush must be wet. That's why you have to keep it dry. But if I use yellow on the brown and I dry brush, I can make it look like worn metal. Or it's not worn metal, worn leather. I can speak. I can honestly speak. Maybe I can do it on the boots here. So a nice warm yellow on a brown, I can get it to look like worn leather. To give it a little bit of texture. I used Caleb skewers shoved with alligator clips. Got a big block of foam. That's another thing. You can do that too. So sort of the effect that I was going. I think my dry brush is too wet, or my paper towel is too wet. So I got to make sure that my paper towel is nice and dry to show you this really awesome thing you could do called zenithal highlighting. Yeah, see, that's just staining. Looks like a burn mark. Just means that my dry brush is wet. But don't worry, I have a lot of dry brushes. Every brush that has decided to stop being useful to me has now become a dry brush. So I'm just getting the water out. So again, tip number 2, keep your dry brush dry. Dry brush dry. All right. I think we're all set. I think we're good. There's a little bit of wetness going on inside, but I think that won't affect us too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gray that I made, and I'm going to dry brush with it. So we'll get rid of it. And then with this, all I want to do is pick out a direction that I want light coming into and dry brush going that way. So I want it coming down at an angle. So I think right about here is where I want my light to come from. So I'm just going to keep kind of hitting where I need to hit it in this direction. And I'm not going to move the model at all. So wherever this hits is where I'm going to have and that's it. Okay. Now I'm going to probably want it. I want it to come that way as well. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing. So I just turned it 180 degrees and kept it there. Get a little bit more here. Trying not to overbrush as much as I can. And what you're doing right now is just creating values, some highlight. And I'll show you where things get highlighted. And I want to hit all the top here. So I'll just hit this top really quick. So it looks like this. So there's where my light is coming from. And then I had to go the opposite way with it. So really the light should be hitting here. There we go. Then I'll just take my white that I was using. Get rid of all of that. And then I'll do the same thing, but I'm not going to go all the way down with it. I'm just going to kind of hit the top here. And of course, if you had a airbrush, you could actually hit wherever you wanted to hit with it. But dry brushing is just as good. So I'm not hitting over here where this shade is because his head is in the way. But I might hit down here a little bit. And we'll take it here. And we'll hit it on top. Oop. Get some white on there. I might have messed up some of my little highlights, but There you go. We'll get some light in here. And this is zenithal shading, like where the light hits it and then you have this dark stuff here. And then you can go ahead and you can use a color to just do this. I'm gonna do a there we go. So now what I can do is I can take some bone color if I want. And I can dry brush where the bone is over the white. And where it's hitting the black, it's a little bit darker than where it's hitting the white. I can hit it on his face. I guess I can't hit it on his face. It was too black. But let's say I wanted to give him, I don't want to rinse it off yet. Let's say I wanted to give him, I don't know, what's a good color here? Purple? Let's say I want to give him a purple color. What I'll do is take my wash brush and I'll mix this around. I want to get this really thin, like almost a glaze. Oh, wait, is that a new technique, glazing? I think it is. I'll just dump that there. And then I can just kind of glaze over this with this purple color. I think everything might still be wet. But you can actually get a purple color on here. This is pretty light. I probably should have went with a darker purple. But what happens is this purple will stain eventually. Oh, God, why am I not always on camera? See, and I'm just kind of glazing over this highlight that I did. But eventually, I will, you know, I'll keep glazing. This is a whole different technique altogether, but you can get that highlight color on the model, and then you can start painting where the highlights are. So that is my little dry brush trick to you. You can do some zenithal highlighting on the model. I just have to make sure it doesn't pool. But we'll look at this more next week. But notice that I did the, I dry brushed the bone on there. Let's get rid of this guy so you can see him. So we can work more on this guy next week. I haven't figured out what models we're painting next week, but so there's the dry brush and the overbrush technique. Next week we're going to look at just doing base coloring, which means that we're going to need a smaller brush. So this big brush here is great for getting that first coat on, but eventually we're going to kind of want to get into places where this brush is going to be way too big to fit in. So we'll work on that. We're going to also work on some color theory. So if you go onto the Discord and look at gmp101 base coloring, it'll tell you what you need for next week's lesson. I'll put some pictures up there at some point during the week to kind of go over what miniature I may be painting. So all you really need is some other type of miniature, you know, that you want to practice on, and we'll work on getting you some colors there. But We're going to continue expanding upon our 4 colors today. So keep your silver, keep your bone, keep your black, keep your brown. We're going to add into it a color pair. We're going to add in white. So check that stuff out. We're also going to need a smaller brush. Not too small of a brush because we're just kind of base coloring. But it needs to be a lot smaller than what we were using. Keep your wash brush and also keep your dry brush. We'll use those during the lesson. And then by week 3, you'll have enough knowledge to actually start working on models that you care about. So I hope that I provided you some knowledge about dry brushing. I hope that I've not scared anybody away. I hope I've brought a lot more people into the miniature painting hobby. And again, practice your dry brush, practice your painting, and again, add some pictures of your dry brush models into the Discord channel, and let me see what you've been working on for weeks to come. And then if you're using this VOD for a tutorial and a paint along offline, then it'll be up there for all week. It'll be up there all week long as soon as Twitch decides it wants to broadcast it. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'm free to answer them now, or we will cut the stream. Again, I'm not rating into anybody, so if there's no questions, you are free to leave and go find your favorite artist or go practice some dry brushing. I'm here. I'll be here for a little bit if you have any questions, and I'll probably end the stream in about 5 minutes. So thank you guys, and thank you for joining. Thank you for attending, and shout outs to everybody that oh, you're so welcome, Emersina. So welcome. I do have a video about priming, the different colors of priming, and so I will try to find that video and I will post it on the Discord. If you also have any tips or techniques or tricks that you would like to, that you are proud of and that you want to do, please put those in the tips and techniques section of the Discord. So you'll find all of that stuff under the university. And that's kind of where I want people to go to learn things. And Talon was gracious enough to give me some video about painting faces, painting dark skin on faces. So you can check that out. So exclamation point Discord gets you to the thing. And again, if you are proud of anything that you've done in the past and you want me to give you some free advertisement because you're a streamer, then just send a picture in the advertisement slideshow, and I will make a pic, and we will. And every time that I stream on Friday nights, I will have that slideshow going, and it will show your name with your work, and people can go follow you as well. Just trying to do stuff for the community as affiliate and trying to provide a service to get more people into the fold. And if you like these, I'm not opposed to doing an intermediate course. That would be what, GMP 200s? The 200s, where I can show you glazing, wet blending, and some other cool little things, tricks of the trade. Emersina got a trick or a tip from me last night, and it turned out to be successful. And then I always wipe my brow off. My OnlyFans is about to pop off. See, you don't have to be nervous. It's always thinking out of the box. But I'm glad it worked too. Because if it didn't work, I'd be like, oh no, I have no business doing these classes. And I hope that everybody that was lurking around got enough blanks and stuff. I did take out all of the redeems except for the highlight my message. but I will make sure that those get put back for tomorrow night's stream. Tomorrow night we're working on my halfling rogue for D&D, Marzen Surefoot, and he's gonna look pretty cool. I just have to go prime him up and get him ready for tomorrow night's stream. I have some other stuff I have to do for tomorrow night's stream, so. And thank you to all my lurkers. So let's see. We got this guy. We got this guy. This is all dry brushing, guys. I don't think I actually painted anything. Look at what we did in just 2 hours. Look at that. So can you imagine what would happen? Oh, so let's get this guy to face the camera. Imagine what we could have done if we actually painted these guys up. Dry brush is still painting. Yes, it is. Yes, it is still dry brushing. Or excuse me, painting. It is a valid technique, and you could do a lot with it. It does provide a lot of texture stuff. I know a lot of your other painters will do a lot more glazing and a lot more blending and stuff, but you can actually do some glow effects with dry brushing. You just have to be careful with it. So, and there's a lot of stuff, like we were just using 4 colors today. This is all 4 colors, but there's obviously, you can dry brush with pretty much anything. The lantern glows as such, yeah. Yep. So you can get some pretty interesting glow effects with dry brushing too. So again, if you try something out with the dry brushing and you're proud of it, or you want me to take a look at it, throw it up in Discord. I would be more than happy to. And you can also do, oh, that's I there you go. You can do some zenithal highlighting. There's a little bit more highlights there, but spooky ghost. The one thing I don't like about dry brushing on ghosts is that it makes them look very stony. So it's something I don't do. All right. If that's all, just look at Artist Opus to see how far you can take that dry brushing. Opus, so yeah, Artist Opus does some pretty crazy stuff with it. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to take a look then. I wish I had known that before. If you have a link to his site, or if you have a video that you want to feature, just stick it into the tips and techniques of the Discord. But yeah, I'll check him out. So there you go, folks. Dry brushing is a valid thing. Don't be scared. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, happy mini painting. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you for attending. Next week, we get into base coloring. Oh, coloring. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, don't worry about lurking. We always love lurkers. Always. Talon, thank you so much for modding. It was fantastic. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're not raiding anywhere. If you were lurking, we're not raiding anywhere, so you are free to go find your favorite streamer. That's not me, because I'm leaving. But go find your second favorite streamer, and you can go and lurk in their stream as well. Good night, everybody. Thanks for attending. You guys make this awesome. See you next week.